Well, first of all, thank you very much for coming. Basically, my topic will be about the part of art movement, the UAE artistic movement, and I'll talk about my personal view. Is experience. Basically, somebody's follow the art movement that's happening in the UAE, and as an artist. So basically, that's my topic will be. I'm starting over here with Image Fine Art Society. Why I pick Image Fine Society? Because I felt that was the first place to start to gather everybody together to have influence in art movement. The art movement actually did start before the union. It's been we have artists, they doing some activities during also before Image Fine Art Society, which is established in 1980. A group of artists that came together and people who lives over here, so they were mixed, and they established the Image Fine Society. Through the Image Fine Society, there was a lot of activities for us, to place to meet all artists, and the beauty of that is not only to meet the artists, is to meet people in the cultural field. People in the poetry, people in the literature, people in theater also. It was a great gathering and exchange, and the place was to do activity, workshop, exhibition, and also interact and talks in the Image Fine Art Society. So after that, the other movement we had, Emirati, that's the Image Fine Society is based is in Sharjah, but it is for whole UAE. Same time when they opened the main branch in Sharjah, they had also a branch in Ras Al Khaimah. So that was also 1980. So show you the art movement, what's happening in the whole UAE. In Dubai, we had Al Marsim Al Hur. So translate to that one, I call Dubai Atelier or studio. It's run by Hassan Sharif, who established the atelier, and the concept was to teach the young and to make them to develop their talents and ability, and also through that saying the Marsim Al Hur to participate in other exhibition. So basically, what I have, the only image I could find for the Marsim Al Hur that I have in the middle, and actually that's me with my friend we're talking about in 90s, early 90s. And the other image I choose is my painting. And why I choose that painting? Because it shows the studio space. So basically I felt it was kind of documenting the studio that is not anymore exist. And the technique. And basically we see the office over here. That was Hassan Sharif office itself. The one image I have in the middle, that's sometimes I take advantage of my colleague, who was with me. I ask him, can you please sit in the office so I can paint you? So basically all the painting was live. And on the other side, in the corner, that's me getting award. So it showed also the award, how much influence the person and push an appreciation of the art, what they're doing, and to do more art works. With the studio or the Marsim Al Hur, so what's happened, Hassan Sharif, then later on he retired. So after he retired, Muhammad Kadhim was one of his students, and also I was his student. So we did take over. Officially it was Muhammad Kadhim, and I was assisting Muhammad Kadhim. So we start to pass the knowledge for next generation. Also, as Marsim Al Hur, he did not, Hassan Sharif, only develop an artist, also develop a people that can pass the knowledge. So we continue to do that. The change that's happened, Marsim Al Hur, we had it all year around. We had the space to go. But when Hassan Sharif retired, so we didn't have real space. So we had in summertime, which the majority of students, they have holiday. So we get advantage of that. We start to do a workshop during summertime. And over here, some images of the workshop, we start to do it. This again, go back to Emirati Fine Art Society. We use their space. And the houses around, Al-Sirkal, Beit Al-Sirkal, Beit Abd al-Shamsi, which is all these historic houses around the Emirati Fine Art Society. And with the workshop, as an example of here seeing the images, it's not only was giving the workshop as technique to learn and improve their artistic. Also, we try to get advantage of all other artists to pass the experience. So we used to do also a lecture, and we see in the picture over here, the one in back, a gathering as an artist we had to pass his experience and knowledge to next generation. And also Hassan Sharif himself was also following up with us, doing a site visit, and also passing experience with a student, and seeing what we're doing as development with the student. With Mersim al-Hor, or let's say it with Hassan Sharif itself. So like, as development, the stuff is happening, coming new. There's a project called Wadi. Had an artist which has a first image from left side, and second image you can see that's a gentleman, his name Bert Hermans from Netherlands. Had a concept to do like, from different nationality, doesn't matter what the background, what the language they talk about, through the art they can communicate and create artwork. That's the main concept he had. So he said he wants to have artists from the UAE and artists from Netherlands, and also we had artists from Belgium to get together for a whole month, and we had like, kind of a project. We went to Netherlands for, we stayed in the house, taking care of everything. That was an interesting experience for me also, like, you have to handle everything for yourself. It's like, away from home, so to take care of you, like, your laundry, your cooking, other things that you do. It's not just an artistic stuff. So, but this was great experience. And living with other artists from like, Netherlands and Belgium. The concept is to do anything, painting, drawing, installation, but the result has to be a video. That's also, for me, it has a kind of a interesting push toward the video art. So the image over here, we see it is like, gathering. And the first actually project that we had, it was in 2002 that we went to Netherlands. I remember it was Eindhoven. And in the picture, in the last picture, that we see it in the right corner is me, Abdulwahid, and Mr. Bert Hermans, that we starting and doing the tour and how we can develop the concept for the project we were doing. And the bottom, we see like, a work group together trying to do something. It was also interesting to learn from other artists that exist, what the concept they have, what they do it, and how we can exchange knowledge and work together to do something. The result of that, for me, I started to be involved in video art. So I have some sample of the video work. The third picture from the left side, or like, that visiting the artist's studio. I thought it was interesting to see the environment of the artist's studio, how the background. And the one in the bottom, after we did the workshop with the video, we did kind of presentation. We showcase. We have in different places. We have one, we did it in top right in Netherlands, and the one in bottom in Sharjah, that was Beit Shamsi. Give you briefly about Beit Shamsi. When I said Beit Shamsi, it's a place, it's front of Sharjah Art Museum. It has an artist studio. We actually used to be an artist studio where all the artists used to get together and like, practice the artwork. And this, in the bottom, that's the location that we used together and to do our performance and activities. On the left side, we have one of the artists doing the performance. He's wearing our local dress. He's from Europe. He's from actually from Netherlands, but you see him with a kandura. So he did like, concept with the desert and like, projecting. For same time that, we were projecting what he's doing in the somebody kandura that we see on top, and myself in the right side, I was projecting the screen on one of the wall at the Beit Shamsi. So the result of that, even I remember Bert Hermans asked me, like, so how much are you going to do a video art? So I thought, like, I'm a painter. I think the majority of time, I spend time doing my painting. So 80% of my time will be dedicated for painting, and 20% will be dedicated to video art. That's was my thought. But when I came back, it's completely changed. 80%, if not 90%, I started to do video art, and like, less time for painting. One of the reasons pushed me to do that is I remember 2003, the Sharjah Biennale. I participated, actually I applied for a video art. And my thought, like, this is something is new. I don't think they will accept it. They will not show it. But I said, let's give it a shot. So I sent it, and I was shocked. They accept my video, and they presented the Biennale. So that was a great push for me to continue. It's interesting what I'm doing. It's something new. People, they see, they like it, and like, it's interesting. And this, a few images of my video art that I was doing that period, I continue again of like, the video art I was doing it. I did a workshop for video art at Beit Shamsi again, where the studio we had. The image I use over here to show is not only we do show, it's not only we like, we do exhibition, it's also the involvement from pioneer artists, like my teacher Hassan Sharif, a discussion and knowledge passing. So after I finished like, my presentation, Hassan Sharif sorry, the images might not be very clear, but this is the best picture I could find. That's Hassan Sharif talking about the video art, talking about the project that we had with Netherlands, and the result that I'm showcasing over here. Development of the movement of what I've been doing it. So I had an installation also at the Sharjah Art Museum. Somebody enters over here, they thought it's a studio, somebody's artist studio. Basically, the image is give you that feeling. But my concept behind that is not to show only the studio, it was to involve and interacting with different artists. Again, because I had a studio at Bet Shamsi, we had 16 different artists studio over there. So I tried to collect different items and elements from each artist. As I'm doing a show, but with that show, I have 16 different artists involved. It's not only the artists, anybody relate to that space, which the coffee boy also was involved in that. So what I did, I collect all the elements, and from the office boy, I collect the teapot and his sugar and stuff that he served every day and make it part of the exhibition. In the bottom image that we see it over here, I mentioned all the artists, the element that I borrowed from them to do this exhibition. So we have a list of all the people and each element that belonged to whom. But the result we see an installation of a studio. This one's just trying to jump a little bit off-road. That's Muhammad Ahmed Ibrahim. In back 2026 or 27, we had an art activities on the seafront, and part also pushing to be art and part of the public art, and be the part for communicating with the not just in the space and the gallery space, communicating with the audience, with the people as unusual. We had artwork from Muhammad Ahmed Ibrahim. He also participated with us, and he was wrapping the palm tree. So we had for a good period of time how to be interact, and also to see a different movement of art. It's not only painting we talk. It's not only about artwork to have it in the white wall or exhibition gallery. It's also how to be involved with the environment, to be outside and interact with the people themselves. This was my last visit to Hassan Sharif before he passed away. I visited, that was in 2015. The image I use over here, because to get an idea who people doesn't know about Hassan Sharif, is the image in background we see, that's all his artwork. The type of artwork that he was presenting is really interesting. We have a group of people, including me, myself, we call him he's an artist ahead of his time. He started to do some movement that was kind of weird for the people in this region. Maybe they did not accept it, but the influence was amazing. And now people start to appreciate and how much the value he was giving, not only as art, as an artist, also as a mentor and a teacher, creating a new generation. As a background, we see all element that belong to Hassan, and that's his studio back his house, creating artwork and what type of artwork used to exist over here. Pushing, again, the influence that's being with me, with all the materials we have it, or involved with all the artists, it did push me to think always about the materials, about the items. If I go back to my first painting, I used to do a lot of still life. So all element, I have it in the studio, it used to make a story for me. I start to think the space I left for 10 years, all element I deal with it, where it will go, how I can keep it. So the concept I had in my mind always. So the materials has a value, and the value of the story behind it. So I was thinking how I can keep it, how I can start to observe, protect this material, not for myself, for next generation also. So the concept I start to do it is to jump to artists, tools, and materials for me to how to document it. And the best way I found it to document it is by turning these pieces to art piece. And over here I have an example. I've been commissioned by ADMAF as part of ADMAF collection to create an artwork about 20 different artists. So the item we have over here, basically I visit the artist, collect the materials, and create artwork. This other example over here, this newest one over here, about 10 different arts I did, was part of Tanweer. They're showcasing now at 1971 design space. Is basically, my concept was, again, how to focus in materials. For artists, for majority of people, they think it's nothing. It's just using tools to create an artwork. But for me, this materials has a value, has a story behind it. Again, this time, this moment, we might not appreciate it, or we might not pay attention to it, but as for me, I'm thinking about the next generation, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, like, when the people, they start to ask who's the artist, what the material, or if they did not ask, how we can bring it to them and showcase, like, this element has a value. Sometimes I give example to my colleague, like, what I mean by that. I mean, like, I said, if somebody come to us today and carrying, like, Abdul Qadir, not Abdul Qadir now, he's like, is an important artist, but let's say Picasso, well known, or Salvador Dali, like, or Monet. And he told us, like, the brush he carrying is belong to Picasso or Monet. What angle we start to look at, oh, how are we going to appreciate that material? It will be a different angle. We feel the value because we know the story behind the artist, and we know how much the tools has a value of it. So I start to think, I said, why not we start to think about people who has influence and impact and important artists in, like, in my region. The materials and tools are very valuable. People, they might not think about it, but for me, it's something that has a story behind it, and how I can collect it and keep it. And best way to collect it and keep it, I thought this would be, like, to observe it and to turn it to art piece. So that's the collection and movement. I start to do it up. And that's the last slide was. Thank you very much. Okay. Then pass the 20 minutes, yeah?
We have some time for questions, and I can pass a mic to our volunteers. Amazing.
Thank you very much for your presentation. You are indeed a forward-looking man, as like probably the nation of the region where we currently are. So for me, the new piece of information was about the 90s you talked about, because when I came to this region, I thought actually the art landscape is booming because of the government support, because there is an interest from the top. But what you're actually saying, what I learned today, is that there was a strong artistic movement from the 90s. So we're now in 2024. So we talked about 90s, we talked about 20s, and as you said, you're thinking about the future. How do you see the next 10 or 20 years in this region for art?
Thank you for that. I mean, the way I'm looking, I see, like, the rhythm we have in Dubai, in UAE especially, is really fast rhythm. So the change is happening quickly. And the good thing, that's with the art movement that we have in Dubai, everybody's starting to come to Dubai itself. So basically, all the type of art movement, you start to see it over here. You don't need to go outside. With the Art Dubai, with Abu Dhabi Art, with Sharjah Bin Ali, all these great, amazing, like, big events happening, you start to interact and see it over here. And this will have influence in the art movement in Dubai itself. So the change, definitely is change a big time. We should not forget also about the digital art. So digital art also has a big influence happening and evolving over here. And so the way I see the next 20 years from now, big change is Dubai starting to be a hub. But in the 20 years will be the hub for the art and art movement, and to everybody to see it. What if new things happening with the art? I feel like this will be the platform to catch that movement. I hope I answered the question. Okay. All right, thanks.
I was fascinated with your process from the early 90s. Thank you for sharing with us today. I also wanted to ask, as a person who loves large-scale murals, do you see that Dubai will invest more in that kind of scope, in making installation art and funding installation and public art and wall art and things like that? Because it's coloring the city in a different way, and it's allowing people to understand the world of art exists outside of the museum, that it's accessible to everyone. Do you see that movement increasing, or do you see it stagnating in the next 5 to 10 years?
Definitely increasing. Will happening, but so many reasons. First reason, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed announced, I said, I want Dubai, I want to be an open museum. That's mean, installation, mural, artwork that you see around the city will be part of it. Plus, if you look at the moment, is there any movement, activities that's happening that support the public art, an installation, or any monument? Yes, there is. As a government part, as in the private sector. So both of them, there is, and there are activities that's going on. And definitely that's what push for more and more. Already, a government Dubai culture start already, commissioning artists to have a public pieces plus the private sector, they're starting to use the space for for art also. So is if we start this movement now, and with a push with government and from the high rank supporting that make and push other government entity doesn't has to be involved in art to also to play a role in that, which in personal I've seen that other entity that has nothing with the art, but they like to have art within them, they want to involve with the art and somehow. So yes, the answer is yes, and will be something to see it. Thank you.
Any other people, or we can slowly transit to the next talk?
Sure.
Okay, it's going to be the last one, and then we're going to applause to Khalil.
So another more kind of philosophical question is around keeping the local identity in art. Because as you described and as you talked about the future, there is a lot of influence from outside in terms of the fairs, the biennales, a lot of subject matter experts are coming into the region to share their experience. And in a way, they're shaping the scene here. But at the same time, I see a very strong influence and push from the local artist. And also I see a lot of support of the local artist. So in your view, what is the healthy balance of leveraging from abroad, but keeping your creative and artistic identity so you build the future platform?
Okay, interesting. The influence definitely exists and will exist. Would be something is a really positive, something is very nice to have this influence and interact with other artists. The way I do to keep or to observe what as our own entity, in my point of view, whoever lives in the UAE and creating the art and the artistic, I feel like also the carrying the entity of the UAE. As far another way, if we look at we're creating artwork over here and we involve with the environment, with a local entity, that's again is related to us. So it's really, there's no direct answer. It's really also tricky. But the way I'm looking at it, I say no. As far you interact with the environment and creating, doesn't matter if you are local or somebody coming abroad. And interacting with their own local environment, I feel is part of positive movement, and it's linked with our own entity. Okay, thanks, sir. Thank you.